Hey gaming fans, so I'm going to be showing off my the Legendary Fisherman deck profile. It's a deck that I've tried to build in the past, but it was always lacking something, and so we finally have a card that actually fits that spot that was missing, and I'll explain that as I go. So let's begin with the obvious, the Legendary Fisherman. This is the guy that started it all. Goes back to the very earlier stages of Yu-Gi-Oh! Pharaoh's Servant, I believe, is where he came out, and basically he has an effect as long as Umi's on the field. I don't know if it's Yumi or Umi. I think it's Umi. Anyways, as long as that field spells out, he's unaffected by, well, it used to be, say, magic cards, but now spell cards, and he can't be attacked by your opponent's monsters. So he protects himself from any attacking monsters. However, because of that, your opponent's allowed to just attack you directly if you don't have any other monsters on the field. So you gotta be very careful. But yeah, so that's Legendary Fisherman. He's a level 5. And then there's the Legendary Fisherman 2. Now this is the card I was talking about that actually makes this work. Because before, you only had the 3 Legendary Fishermen and then the Legendary Fisherman 3, which is what the deck is really based on. But the Legendary Fisherman 2 is pretty good. His name is the Legendary Fisherman while he's in the field or in the graveyard. And it's a good thing because it's not when he's in the hand, or else you wouldn't be able to have the original in your deck as well. Kind of like Harpy-Ladies. So it's good that it's only when he's on the field or in the graveyard. And while Umi's on the field, this card's unaffected by monster effects. So the Fisherman's unaffected by spells, he's unaffected by monster effects, which I think is a much more common thing today, is monster effects. But being immune to like Dark Hole and Regeki is pretty good too. And then the best part about this guy is if he's destroyed by your opponent's battle or card effect, you get to search for a level 7 water monster from your deck to your hand. And you're often going to go for this guy. Well, he's the only target in the deck anyways. So this is the Legendary Fisherman 3. When I first built this deck, I only had the original Legendary Fisherman and the Legendary Fisherman 3. Which means 3 only had 3 targets. And that's a problem because there's really no way to search this guy out. And so the Legendary Fisherman 3 is... he cannot be normal summoned or set, but he must be special summoned from your hand by attributing 1 Legendary Fisherman. So now we have 6 targets for this card to actually get pulled out, which is okay. You know, it would be better if we had some more, but so far 6 is good. And it cannot be special summoned in any other way, so he's what they used to call, I guess, a Nomi monster, or one of those monsters that can only be special summoned by his condition. When he's special summoned, though, you can banish all monsters your opponent controls. However, he cannot attack this turn. I think that's a pretty fair trade-off. You know, banish your entire monsters, your opponent's monsters, like Regeki them, but banish them instead. And then you just can't attack that turn. The other part that's really good is he cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and is also unaffected by spells and traps. So this guy's almost like a god card in a sense. He's not immune to monster effects, so you gotta be careful. And he's got a 2500 body, and he also has another effect that you can return as many of your opponent's banished cards as possible to their graveyard, and if you do, the first battle or effect damage your opponent takes becomes doubled. So that pretty much becomes OTK right there. You know, for instance, if he were to attack his 2500 body, he becomes 5000, and I mean that can almost wipe your opponent out right there. So that's pretty much what the deck is based on, is the 3 Legendary Fisherman cards. So the rest is pretty much support for him. So I was deciding on many different choices, and I decided to go with the barriers. You know, taking a chance that maybe there's not a lot of water decks out there, or you're not always going to face water decks. And if you do, well, you'll have to side them out. But, so this guy is basically no monsters can be special summoned except for water monsters. His only downside is he's got 1000 attack. So if they throw a weenie out on the board, they can pretty much run him over as long as he's over 1000 or more. But there is kind of ways to protect him. I wanted to throw in some, like, things that'll remove stuff off the field. So, Tribe Infecting Virus, which just got off the ban list. For a very long time, this guy was on the ban list, as in you weren't allowed to play him at all. Now he's at 3. So basically, you could discard one card from your hand, declare one type of monster, destroy all face-up monsters declared of that type from both players' side of the field. So you basically choose whatever your opponent has on the field and then blow up their monsters. Cauterus is similar, except you need Umi on the field to use his effect, and you send Umi to the graveyard, and you can send 2 cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. That's pretty much any card, and I don't think it targets, so that's actually pretty good. Then to round out some of the other monsters, Effect Failure. As I said, Legendary Fisherman 3, he's still affected by effect monsters, so I put 2 Effect Failures in there to try and help with that. And the final monster is 3 Warrior of Atlantis. You could discard this card to the graveyard, add 1 a Legendary Ocean from your deck to your hand, and that's important in this deck. I mean, you literally want that card all the time. So let's go out of the monsters here now. And the first set of spells is obviously a Legendary Ocean. This deck needs it. And so what it does is it makes your level 5 monsters, your Legendary Fisherman and Legendary Fisherman II, become level 4 monsters on your hand, in your hand and in the field. And then to search it out, of course, terraforming. Just because there's only 1 per deck anyways, but you got 3 more terraformings in the form of this guy. So you actually have 7 ways to get Yumi on the field. Well, 6 ways. I threw in a little bit more draw power, so I threw in a Upstart Goblin and 3 Pot of Dualities. Because you really are focusing on getting out that Legendary Fisherman 3 in this deck. That's your win condition. That's the way this deck runs. And for some more draw power, Moray of Greed. This is a hard card to decide on. I mean, there's a lot of targets for it. It can become cloggy. You return 2 water monsters from your hand to your deck and draw 3 cards. The problem is you might want those water monsters in your hand. So you really got to pick and choose. Like maybe you have extras of these guys, you don't need them. Or maybe the, you drew 2 of the Legendary Fisherman 3. You could put 1 back. And speaking of Legendary Fisherman 3, I decided on a Gold Sarcophagus. It's just a way to get the 3 in your hand. You have to wait 2 turns, but that's fine. You set up your board. You can wait. Monster Reborn. Pretty typical card in any deck. Especially if any of your monsters get tossed to the graveyard, you can bring it back. You can bring back your barrier statue, anything that you've lost, anything that you need for a tribute, just in case you don't have the Yumi out. So I think it makes sense in this deck. Now on for the traps. So I decided on 2 safe zones. I originally had 3 in this deck, and I found that I kept drawing them when I didn't need them. So I cut it down to 2, and really the only card that I was thinking about for that is the barrier statue. And that's like pretty much it. I mean, you could do it on your tribe infecting virus as well. But to be able to make one of your barrier statues, can't be destroyed, can't be targeted and all that stuff, your opponent's going to have a hard time being able to special summon unless they play water monsters themselves. So that was my thought with that. You have to be careful with the Legendary Fisherman 3. I don't know if he could target that or use that effect. 2 Call of the Haunted. Again, I had this at 1, and then I had it at 3, and then I went to 2. So I've been kind of messing around with the, the ratios on this. Just something to bring back things like barrier, maybe stop your opponent's play before anything happens. Maybe they special summon a monster, or they normal summon a monster with the intent to special summon. You chain and then bring this guy out. You might foil their plan. Or you might be able to bring back your Legendary Fisherman 2 or 1 or Tribe or whatever you need. Again, to deal with monster effects, I'm trying 2 Fiendish Chain just because it can stop an attack and it can negate an effect. So if your opponent were to play something that could target the Legendary Fisherman 3 and try and bounce it or something, you can activate this and stop it in its tracks. And again, to deal with monster effects, 3 Solemn Strike. I originally had 3 Solemn Warnings, but I decided, this is a better card. This actually stops the monster effects. And it can stop a special summon as well. So that's where I left it at that. There were some honorary mentions for this deck, you know, things that I've considered and maybe taken out. You know, things like I was thinking about Card D, just for some more draw power, because this deck really just needs draw power. Unfortunately, playing Card D, it ends your turn, so you really need to have a setup, or else you're wide open. Debunk was just one of those cards, but now that I have the 3 Solemn Strikes, it's not really going to do anything. I was thinking about these trap monsters, because they can become water monsters. You know, there's Quantum Cat, which could be a level 4, 2300 defense, and he's a water, because you get to declare your attribute. Or Swamp Mirrors, he's a 1800 attack. I don't know, it just was a thought. And also Instant Fusion I was thinking about. The thing is, you got to be careful with this deck, because you have to remember when Yumi's out, your water monsters are now 1 level less. So with Instant Fusion, you got to keep that in mind if you're going to go into something. There's also that other card that I had. I took it out, and it was the one that actually summons 2 level 5 water or warrior monsters, which I see a lot of people play in this deck, because Legendary Fisherman 2 and 1 are level 5 warriors. Problem is, if you did have Yumi out, that card would be useless, because these guys are now level 4s. So you'd have to be careful. But yeah, that's the deck. Let me know what you think. It's kind of a fun deck. I've always wanted to build a good Legendary Fisherman deck. Hopefully they come out with another one. You know, like, I don't know how they can come up with another one, but it would be cool to have another Legendary Fisherman card. And maybe even some more support. Like, I know there is also that trap geez, I forgot the name of it. It brings Yumi back from the graveyard. And you can banish a water monster. I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird to me. I think I like this build so far. Anyways, let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. Love to hear what you have to say. Hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.